In this video, you'll see how to solve two-step and multi-step inequalities. So here are some sample problems. Remember, when we're solving an inequality, we're basically going to do the same thing we did when we are solving an equation, but we want to make sure we graph our solution when we're done and also watch out for the negative coefficients. So let's take a look at this first example here. I have 2y minus 3 is less than or equal to a negative 5. And I want to eliminate the constant that's on the variable side first. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I get 2y is less than or equal to a negative 2. I want to divide both sides by the coefficient here. 2y divided by 2 is just y. I'm going to bring my sign down, less than or equal to. And negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Now I want to graph this solution. Y is less than or equal to negative 1. Here's my boundary, negative 1. And I want to decide open or closed circle is going to be closed because it could be negative 1, less than or equal to. And I want to think to myself, what numbers are less than or equal to negative 1? All the numbers over here. In the next example, 8 is greater than b divided by negative 2 minus 2. All right, so again, same thing. I want to eliminate the constant on the variable side. The variable's over here on the right. So I want to eliminate that constant here by adding 2 to both sides. I get 10 is greater than b over negative 2. And here's where I have to be careful. I have that negative coefficient here, dividing by a negative 2. To solve this, I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 2. I get negative 20 on the left. And then b divided by negative 2 times negative 2 is just b. But I have to remember to switch my inequality. So instead of having the greater than sign, I'm switching it to the less than sign. I'm going to graph this inequality. Negative 20 is less than b. My boundary here is at negative 20. And I need to decide open or closed circle. It's got to be open because it's negative 20 is less than b, but b cannot be negative 20. And I have to ask myself what numbers are negative 20 is less than what numbers. So negative 20 is going to be less than all the numbers over here, like negative 10 and 0 and so forth. All right, let's take a look at this longer problem here. First, I'm going to want to simplify the left side, and I am going to use the distributive property to help me simplify here. So I get 4w minus 12 plus 6w is less than negative 18. I want to combine like terms. 4w and a positive 6w is 10w minus 12 less than negative 18. And now I just want to add that 12 to both sides of the inequality here. And I get 10w is less than negative 18 plus 12. It's going to give me a negative 6. I'll divide both sides by 10. And I have w is less than, and I'll reduce this fraction, negative 3/5. When I graph this, my boundary is going to be this, negative 3/5. Open or closed circle must be open because w is less than a negative 3/5. And so what's less than negative 3/5? Everything over here, like negative 2, negative 10, and so forth. So here are some problems for you to practice on your own. Please solve them and then choose the best answer. Okay, in this first one here, I've got a negative 11 plus 10x is greater than negative 131. So what I want to do is I want to add 11 to both sides because that's the constant on the variable side of the inequality. I get 10x is greater than negative 131 plus 11, negative 120. I'm going to divide both sides by a positive coefficient so I don't have to worry about changing the signs. X is greater than negative 12. I look at my solutions here. I've got x is greater than negative 12, x is less than negative 12, x is greater than negative 12. So one of these, A or D, is correct. And I'm going to choose D because I have the open circle here. And that's how we graph that inequality. Okay, for this next one, I have n divided by a negative 9 plus 1 is less than or equal to 2. And to solve this, I am going to subtract my constant on the variable side from both sides of the inequality. N divided by negative 9 is less than or equal to 1. Multiply both sides by this negative 9 here. I get n. I have to switch the sign because I multiplied both sides by a negative. So n is greater than or equal to negative 9. I look at my solutions here. This is the only one that has n greater than or equal to negative 9. These graphs are the same, but this one is not graphed correctly. So A is my correct answer. Okay, to solve this one, I'm going to take negative 3 plus 3 times 1 plus 5n is less than 30. And I'm going to distribute negative 3 plus 3 plus 15n less than 30. Negative 3 plus 3, that just cancels out. And I want to divide both sides by a positive 15 here. N is less than 2. And I look at my choices here. These are obviously not true. This is n is greater than 2. Here is n is less than 2. And for this last example, I have variables on both sides of the inequality. So let's see what I would do here. I'm going to take n minus 2 minus 4n minus 13 less than or equal to 1 plus 5n minus 4n. I really want to make sure I simplify both sides of the inequality first before I do anything here. So I've got n minus 4n. That's a negative 3n. This is a negative 2 and a negative 13. That's negative 15. That's going to be less than or equal to positive 5n minus 4n. That's a positive 1n. So 1 plus n. Now I've got the variable on both sides. Here you really want to make sure you keep that coefficient positive. That way you don't have to worry about flipping the sign later. So it's helpful if you do this, if you add 3n to both sides. You could still solve it correctly if you subtracted n from both sides, but you have less chance of making mistakes if you do it this way. So I've got negative 15 is less than or equal to 1 plus 4n. I'm going to subtract the 1 on both sides. Negative 16 less than or equal to 4n. I am going to divide both sides by my coefficient, which is positive, and I get negative 4 less than or equal to n, which is the same thing as saying n is greater than or equal to negative 4, so D is my choice. And that's how we solve two-step and multi-step inequalities.